it all came together so well. And that was one kind of section of my journey where I submitted to the process and to the creativity, and I let it drive me for a while. And to this day, I say I didn't design Pariah. It wasn't me. It was the higher power. It was just somebody else took the wheel, and that one just happened.
Hello and welcome to Splitting Seams. My name is Shannon and I am your host. So today's guest is Erica Lee Helgerson from Lavender and Twine Patterns. So Erica is a little bit of an enigma in our community, I would say. She is someone who doesn't tend to post a lot. She doesn't put as much of her personal life out there. She definitely leans more towards the private side of things, and I respect that so much about her. So I understand with that comes a lot of questions. So many of us are very curious about kind of how her brain works, what her design process is, what is the reasoning behind some of the choices she makes in her business. And so we get into a lot of that in this episode. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but also to kind of get to a more personal side of Erica that we don't get access to very often. And I think that speaks a lot to how vulnerable she was, because she's someone who really creates a very curated image for her business, as far as kind of how she presents her work, kind of how she approaches promotion and all those things. It's a very specific kind of vibe that she has, and it's very respected in our community. And so I really enjoyed being able to explore that with her and just kind of pick her brain a little bit. I hope you enjoy it too. So let's get into it. Hey Erica, welcome to Splitting Seams.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. I know that you are going to be there's going to be a lot of people excited for your interview. So I'm so glad you agreed to come on.
Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah. So for those that don't know you, can you give a little bit of backstory and tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure. So my Facebook name, Instagram name, Erica Lee Helgerson are my socials. I am the owner and designer behind Lavender and Twine, and I've been designing bag patterns since 2019. But I've been a bag maker in the community since I think 2015-ish.
Okay.
So, started sewing when I was just a kid, and I was using my mom's machine, her little home Kenmore machine. And I guess I was about 12 when she bought me my own so that I would stop using hers. And I just sewed whatever I wanted. I do remember sewing my first bag in high school, but it wasn't what set me off on this journey. It was just one of my random projects.
Okay.
And I've always been a creative. I always needed to do something with my hands. I've always needed to make something, even if it wasn't something that had a plan to it. I just would glue some things together or cut something out, and I just needed that kind of outlet. And then in 2015, I was in a role with a big company. It was a luxury home furnishings company. I'm sure lots of people have heard of it. It's Restoration Hardware.
Okay.
It goes by RH now, but I was on the store level with them, and then my job switched and I started working for the corporate office, and they would travel me, and I would work 2 weeks out of the month. And so when I was at home for the other 2 weeks, I was really ramping up my creative side. So I licensed my business in 2016, but right before I was ramping up with like little patterns I found on Pinterest for like little clutches that I thought, hey, I can production make these many, many at a time and then go and sell them at markets or something. And I kind of had this idea back then that I needed to focus on just a couple products and just make those forever. And then in 2015 is when I started traveling and started that whole thing. And then I licensed in 2016. and found more kind of established pattern makers like
Okay.
Swoon and Blue Calla and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. The kind of not generic, the ones that we generally start with, like we
Right.
find
Yeah.
them easily,
Mm-hmm.
especially back then. And started with like, I fell in love with Celine by Swoon and Annette, of course, and started making those, became kind of a custom maker. And then in 2019, I had a good friend asked me to remake a retail bag that she had. It was a little clutch and it was cute. And my brain like disassembled it and looked at it in terms of all the pieces that it needed to be. And she just wanted it redone in like a different color. And she's like, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Sure." It didn't take long, but I thought, hey, while I'm doing this, why don't I just write the pattern for it? Um, and of course, I tweaked it a bit intentionally so it wouldn't be exactly like the retail bag. But that was Janine, and that was in 2019.
Okay.
And looking back on that now, well, in 2022, I remade Janine, but looking back on it, I was like, that was for sure the greenest I've ever like. It was so um novice for me as far as like pattern writing, and I didn't have a video with it, and it was just very like so basic, and I'm like, oh, baby Erica back then was just starting, and so I redid the pattern in 2022, and it was really nice to revisit that. But yeah, I've been kind of I around 2019 I started ramping up customs at the same time, and
Okay.
I had booked customs far, like over a year out. I had customs to make. And so at one point, I'm like, I have to close my customs calendar. Um, it's just getting too far. And so I closed that. I worked the rest of it and then decided to just focus on design. And so ever since probably around 2021, I think 21, I've been exclusively design, no customs anymore. Um, and yeah, so that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And
Thank you.
um, so can you tell me a little bit about your business name? So I
Yeah,
want to jump back a little bit, but your business
yeah.
name is Lavender and Twine. And
Hmm.
so can you tell me, I've always been curious about kind of where that came from.
Of course. And I do have a very specific story about it.
Okay.
So my husband's boutonniere at our wedding was lavender wrapped in twine.
Okay.
And I was looking for a name for my business for a long time. I wanted it to be something very significant and very meaningful to me and also different. And I also didn't want to include anything about bags
Okay.
or sewing because I knew that I had interests elsewhere and I was allowing myself room to evolve and morph into maybe something else in
Okay.
the future. But it was my sister-in-law who was like, I was like, I want it to be something interesting, like flowers or nature. And I'm like, like my husband, like Chris is my husband, and it was his sister I was talking to. And I said, like his boutonniere was like lavender wrapped in twine. And she's like, well, what about lavender and twine? And I'm like, done. But then my husband actually told me about the significance of an ampersand,
Okay.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and how in like the film industry, when there are, say, there's like two directors or two writers on a movie, um, if they didn't work together necessarily under the same umbrella company, it might use the word and. But if they are together under the same umbrella company, it's more often that they'll use an ampersand to significant to signify that they are a joint
Okay.
um, together. So I was like, I love that kind of imagery, that um, metaphor of like togetherness and unity and stuff. So that's why I use the ampersand, and I'm very like, I don't get offended if you don't use the ampersand when you're writing out my name by any means, but I do. it just kind of like touched my heart when people go out of their way to make sure they use the ampersand. And
Okay.
then when you see like my Instagram photo and or my Facebook business page photo, it's that ampersand.
Hmm.
So it's always been very meaningful to me. So
Okay. That's
yeah,
sweet. That's very sweet. It's very
thank you.
sentimental.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So I want to backtrack a little bit to when you were selling bags. And so when did you actually start selling your bags? I know that you said you made your first bag when you were in high school. It was more of just like
Hmm.
I'm making something. And then you eventually evolved into crafting on your off time
Hmm.
and pushing that even further. But when did you make that transition from just making I know that you were doing the markets and things with the smaller
Yeah.
items, but when did you
Yeah.
really transition to bags and what was it like in your business during that time?
So I want to say that from that point at 2015, when I started working harder on my business, um, when I started making the clutches, that was just for the markets that I was
Okay.
doing. When I really started selling like bags that I would post on my business page and then
Mm-hmm.
people would reach out and ask to buy them,
Mm-hmm.
that was around 2017.
Okay.
So a little bit later than that. And then in 2018, at the end of 2018, I actually lost my job with that company I was telling you about. They eliminated my department basically.
Okay.
And that was when I decided my business deserves the chance to see what it could become with all of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm not going to look for another job for a while and see what happens here. It was a stressful time because my husband also quit his job to go back to school the very same month.
Oh wow. That's a big
So
change
I had no option other than to succeed.
to make it work.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think it was a blessing. It was not, I can't take all of the credit or glory or anything like that. It was definitely a blessing that I was provided for, um, not by any person, but, I believe in God and all that. But I worked hard.
Yeah.
I worked
It's not without
hard
effort.
and yeah, and it paid off because it launched what I can do now is relax a little bit more because I've put in so much. I used to roll
Yeah.
out of bed onto my machine and then just sew, and then go to bed. And my husband was like, you can breathe. You can go to dinner. You can, let's do something else. And I'm like, I have to hustle right now. You're going to school. You go do your homework. Like, I don't, I don't need
Mm-hmm.
much right now. I just need to
Right.
work. So I think I put in a couple years like that. And in hindsight, like you can't sustain that very long, but
No. You'll
it
burn out.
worked for me for a time. It was necessary for a time. And I'm really thankful, grateful that I was able to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Yeah. And so you eventually end up doing patterns in 2019. And so you transition from bags and patterns, and then you just go to patterns. What was that
Hmm.
like, though? Like knowing that, you're changing that, you're having that big transition of like make,
Hmm.
so every day.
Yeah.
By that time, is your husband still in school or was he? Okay, so he was still
Yes.
in school.
Hmm.
And then you transition to patterns, you leave behind the bag making. That's like a whole, I don't know, like I look back on my time when I just made bags full time. I never really made that much money.
Hmm.
But I looked back on it as like I too, I mean, I was in here all day, every day, so inspired all the time
Yeah.
because I had these like wonderful blank canvases of patterns and I just took
Hmm.
all my supplies and I made them what I wanted. So, how do you look back on your time as a bag maker? Like, do you just a bag maker and not a designer? Do you miss that? Or are you just happy or kind of like not having to worry about that or using your own blank canvases? Like, kind of like what's the contrast there for you?
So I feel like I have not a special situation or anything like that, but like there's a part of that kind of history with me that is a significant, it's significant in the sense that I didn't stop bag making and go to design. It wasn't a stark difference, a stark
Okay.
contrast between the two. I faded in and faded out. There was overlap. But
Okay.
also at the same time, while I was doing customs, I I
What
don't know if you
happened?
heard my cat just now. Sorry.
Oh, no, I did not. What is your cat's name?
Um, Andarna.
Hi, Andarna. Um,
Cute.
what is she, an orange kitty?
No,
What color is she?
she's tabby.
Okay.
She won't let me pick her up, but she's
That's
tabby.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm just thinking because Andarna is the gold-colored one
Mhm.
from the Fourth Wing series,
Yes.
right? So I was
Yes.
like immediately, oh, she's an orange tabby, or
She's
yeah.
iridescent. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Um, anyway, sorry.
no, that's okay.
So I was doing customs and then fading into design. But at the same time, I had gotten a space as a striker for a very popular custom fabric group.
Okay.
And if you don't know what a striker is, it is so for custom fabric groups, when they print their designs in rounds, so say they're on round 20, um, they will put the 10 or so fabric designs up on their website for sale. You buy them, and then they send those purchases, they send the prints off to the factory, and the
Yeah.
factory prints exactly how many they need to fulfill those orders.
Yeah.
It's not a retail situation where they just have it
Mm-hmm.
on hand and you buy it and they send it out. So in order to advertise the rounds, they would have a team of strike sewists where they would send the fabric
Mm-hmm.
out to us first. We would sew up an item and then promote it for them.
Mm-hmm.
But we would get the fabric for free and we would get the exposure and everything. And I know we don't work for exposure, right? But it was actually really good exposure.
Yeah, we've
um,
we've talked at length on the show about striking in the past. So I think
nice.
most of
Okay.
our listeners are aware kind of what
Okay.
it is. So I mean, you're welcome also to say the name of this company.
It was
Um,
blended threads.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know of
Yeah.
them for sure.
And
I think I've bought a couple
at,
of their prints.
yeah, I have probably a whole 2.5 cubbies over here. Um, but it was a huge accomplishment in my own personal opinion, in my own mind, to be accepted onto that team. It
Okay.
helped me with, it helped me with on the creative side. I didn't know what fabric I was going to get.
Okay.
So once
Yeah.
it was chosen for
It was
me
a
and sent
challenge.
to me, yeah, it was a challenge to formulate my plan around that print. And of course, like it gave me an opportunity to try other patterns I wouldn't normally try because nobody's ordering that pattern from me specifically. But then at the same time, at that time, that community was very garment focused.
Okay,
So
yeah.
as a bag maker, me and Alexis from Ora Rosa were the only two on the team that were exclusively bag makers at the time. And we would make our bags, post them in these primarily garment focused groups. And then I received a lot of orders that way because they maybe didn't know how or didn't want to attempt a bag.
Okay.
And so at that point, I was remaking a lot of bags that I had posted because I would get orders for those.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
I just kind of compiled a lot of that kind of year that I was working down my customs. It
Okay.
was and I couldn't readily get those fabrics again because that round would close.
Right, it was
And
a
if I was
pre-order.
out, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I have to work with them and be like, I'm sorry, I can do these fabrics, but I can't do that one again. So anyway, that was a very interesting time. It allowed me to sew more often because with design, I know a lot of people don't realize that with design, you're not sewing all that often.
Yeah.
At least me.
Yeah.
Do you
I
find that
mean,
as well?
um, so I do sew quite a bit. I got all of my prototypes are essentially sewn. I don't do any really full paper prototypes. I know that you do. I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, I start kind of there.
Yeah. But no, It wasn't fun enough for me, so I needed to get back under the needle. I needed to see how it flowed and things like that. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I do end up making quite a bit. I mean, a lot slower, a lot less than I did when I was full-time bag making. Like it's definitely a way slower
Yeah.
process. You know, it's like
Yeah.
maybe 1 to 2 bags a week. You know,
Yeah.
um, but otherwise, you know, for the most part, I'm still making, and I give
Mm-hmm.
myself times where I have fun and
Mm-hmm.
then I go back to designing. But
Yeah. And
go
that's
ahead.
what I mean, where like it's never, for me at least anymore, usually not, I'm sitting at my machine, I have all my pieces cut and I'm just sewing for the day. It's usually like I'll sew this and then I'll need to tweak. So I'll get up to my cutting table, tweak things, and then come back and sew. And
Yeah.
the design process is just a little bit different than just sitting down and making a bag. But that does happen during the process when I need to make all my promo bags,
Mm-hmm.
or I need to get bags ready for photographing the steps and then
Yeah.
filming the steps. And then so yeah, the making days do happen, but it's mostly you're up and down, you're on the computer, at least I'm on the computer digitally, you
Mm-hmm.
know irking lines and fixing curves and things like that. So it's definitely different than just having the custom orders to do, and you cut and sew and you're done.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the custom orders. Like how long did you do that for? And were you like most of us who eventually gets like their soul sucked fully out of them in the midst of custom making or of
uh,
custom orders or what?
So I started taking custom orders kind of around that 2017 period when I first started with those swoon patterns and things
Okay.
and the blue callas and stuff. Um, because I noticed that when I posted a bag and someone wanted it, um, you know, I was like, "Oh, I can make and sell. That's interesting." So I would make what I wanted. And then, of course, I'd post something and somebody would say, "Do you want this in, or do you have this in like blue?" And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I mean, I don't hold a stock, so no, but I could make it in blue. And then I
Right.
decided, I was like, okay, well, that's when my sort of my Facebook business page started growing, and I got shouted out on a couple YouTube channels from makers that were much bigger than me.
Okay.
And then I started getting a little bit more growth in that, and I would just funnel people to the business page, message me if you need anything. Like somebody would see me out in the wild, and I'm like, here's my card. And those custom orders became very sort of formulaic when I was talking to people. I'm like, okay, I hear what you're asking for. Here's the options. Like before you even ask, I'll tell you I can make this in vinyl or fabric. I can make it this size or that size. Do you want it handbag or crossbody? All of the questions that just I kind of curated my conversations
Mm-hmm.
to, and obviously I would customize them to the person. We would have
Right.
actual conversations. There was never any form to fill out or
But it
anything
was
about
more of
what you
like you
wanted.
had like a standard guideline in which you had these
Yeah.
questions, things like
Yeah.
that, just kind of to go over to make
And
sure.
and the experience that I was gaining helped me kind of foresee the questions that people would have.
Mm-hmm.
But I was upfront right away. I'm like, I can make this for you, but it won't be done until August of next year or something like that. And for the most part, people were like, that's totally fine. I don't think I ever had anybody say, well, that's too long. I'm going to back out. I never had one person say that.
Okay, wow.
But I gave myself about, I want to say like 2 orders a week at that point, and I had a big long Excel spreadsheet, which I was very excited about,
I
because
love me
Excel.
a spreadsheet. Okay, I love me a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And it was also a matter of keeping track of what fabrics have I already promised to someone. I
Right.
don't want to over
Will you
promise
have
that
enough
fabric.
left? Right.
Exactly. So I had to keep track of all of that. And then each month I would go into that spreadsheet and I would check off, like, do I have enough interfacing? What do I need to buy? That kind of thing for each hardware too. I'd place orders. And so it never did get to the point where like my soul was getting sucked out of me because
Mm,
people were just like more and more. It wasn't like that at all for me. Everybody seemed to be. very excited, especially since they had waited so long when their
Mm-hmm.
bag was ready. I took so much pride in the photos that I would take because I felt like when I was photographing their piece, it was like giving them a gift. Like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just here it is, I would
Mm-hmm.
like set up my station. I would set up my photography station and I would use those photos as advertisement basically for myself to post something to post online. It was basically content. But when I sent them their photos, they were always the first one to see, obviously. And I would give them angles and all these different props, and it would be a beautiful photo shoot on purpose for them as a gift. Thank you for doing this for me or for ordering from me. And and I would always be very excited for the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when on the kind of uglier side of customs when it comes to things like your terms and conditions or like this bag is handmade. So like obviously treat it well and here's what you shouldn't do with it. Don't wash it in the washing machine or whatever, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I do stand by my bags for a certain amount of time. So let me know
Mm-hmm.
if anything happens. And of course, that's always that anxiety hanging over your head. Like,
Oh,
what
for
if something
sure.
happens?
For sure.
Or like maybe a rivet didn't press correctly or something. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I started thinking in in the way of like, no matter what happens, I will always endeavor to make that customer happy. So if a rivet pops, will do whatever they need.
Right.
Like if they need to send it back to me, that's fine. I will replace that rivet. And I started kind of calming my fears about that kind of thing, but I never really had that many problems at all.
Good.
So um, it was all under my terms and conditions anyway. Like I had written out a very specific terms and conditions and then like what to expect in my PayPal invoices that I would send to people. So I was just very proud that I had cultivated with experience, I had cultivated what I needed to cover myself and the customer. And it was just kind of a seamless process at that point. And it was nice. I was sorry to end it because I'm like, this has so many years of experience behind it, and it's so well, like it's a well-oiled machine at this point. And so it was kind of sad to see it close, that
Mm-hmm.
chapter closed. But it made way for patterns like Moonwake and
Right.
Rudinea, and so I was happy for that to kind of transition.
No,
So.
absolutely. I think more of what I was talking about with the like soul sucking is like some of us are very much like when somebody tells us what to make, there it blocks create you get put in a box
Oh
essentially.
yeah.
And it's
Hmm.
being in existing in that box is very uncomfortable for some types
Hmm.
of creatives. I am one of those people. I had done some very limited customs here and there over the years of my bag making where I would say, all right, I'm willing to make 6 of these bags to your preference. And then the first 6 people to purchase their ability to get these custom makes, like that's it. But all the rest of the time, I was just essentially shopping my stash and making what I wanted to make. And for me, I've always been just a very very creative person since I was a baby, I just
Hmm.
or I don't know about baby, but like a toddler, like
Hmm.
I just knew elementary school, all that stuff. And so for me, I couldn't ever really do customs for any length of time,
Hmm.
even though I would get so many people that would want me to recreate a bag that I made before or to just kind of push me in that direction. And I just was like, I've done it. I I personally hated it. I think I kudos to anyone that can do it because for me it was just the second I get put in a box, creativity, like I get
Hmm.
limitations on something that I'm creating, any form of art. It is it just it kind of clutches my heart a little bit and I'm like, I'm a child. I don't like it. Okay, I throw a little
Hmm.
temper
Yeah.
tantrum. And so I have just learned that customs were not it for me. And hopefully people like what I make, but I also, there's no imposed pressure. Like I don't feel beholden to a timeline in that way,
Hmm.
or I also like big for me is like, I don't know if you ever felt this way of like feeling like I am falling short of somebody's expectations. Like if they're like, oh, I imagined this bag in a burgundy color. I know you only made it in a blue color, and I think it will look great with this hardware. And then they see it all made and they're like, I should have went with the
No.
other color. Because I have done
Yeah.
that before with my own purchasing or my own making of things, like, oh man, I didn't really like how that turned out. I never want to be the person that is the one that you bought from that you're like too afraid to tell that you were disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, the path of least resistance has always been just make it and hope that it sells, and that because people know
Hmm.
exactly what they're getting and they know when they're getting it, and you
Yeah.
know it's all in their face, so that
Yeah.
was never something I was really able to do. But were you okay with like recreating past makes 5, 10 times? Like you never had a problem with that?
I mean, it definitely dragged sometimes, and
Yeah,
I had to immediately pivot into something that I wanted after I was done.
yeah,
But for me, I think I never had a problem removing myself from the equation when it came to um, what I wanted to do versus what the customer might be happy with.
yeah,
And so like of course there were times when I was like, this would have been better in brown than it is in black or whatever, but they wanted black. And I'm like, I can make it work. I can do whatever they want because and I didn't have any problem suggesting things like, oh, hey,
for
would you
sure.
consider brown?
Yeah,
Because, maybe these colors are warm and black is a cold color or something like that. Um, but I always had the ability to just be like, I'm very excited for them to see what they wanted
mm-hmm.
and to bring that to them. So I think that was more my focus. And then once I was done with their order, shipped out, washed hands of it, it's it is what it is now. If they love it, I hope they do. But then I'm like, okay, let's focus back onto what I want to do. And then like I'd have this list of patterns I wanted to try, and then I would just pick and I'd be like, here's the next thing I'm doing or the next strike or whatever. And the challenge of making it beautiful and amazing, regardless of those choices or regardless of being in that box, like I wanted to make the most of that box. If I was in a
Mm-hmm.
box, it was going to be the prettiest box I could make it.
Whew.
And so,
Kudos to you. Kudos to you. My
thank you.
brain doesn't get there. It can't. It's like, nope, I'm going to push out of it the second
I
I'm
love
put
that.
into it. Um,
Nice.
I mean, that's not to say that I don't put myself in boxes,
Yeah.
but there's it's like that feeling of lack of control, like, but I've always creativity has always been heavily tied to like my mental state and to like
Mm-hmm.
my creative output, all those things. And so if somebody else is like kind of controlling that for me, well, I don't need that. That's
Yeah.
not what I need. I
Yeah.
need to be outside of the box. So I love that you were able to do that. And you said, you're kind of able to separate yourself from essentially
Mm-hmm.
their decisions. You're creating their vision for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a point of view and a perspective I was never able to get to. Like, even when they would be like shopping my stash for me, and I would send them
Mm-hmm.
pictures, and like, I wouldn't give them my full vinyl or cork collection to choose from. They would get the colors that I would say would go well with
Mm-hmm.
that, and the hardware
Yeah.
color I would suggest with it. It was a very limited custom sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But and there was people that are still doing customs, but I have also heard so many people that are on my side of things. I think there's just something about how your creativity works in your brain and whether you
Mm-hmm.
can function like and do what you did, and then have and celebrate your opportunities to get outside of the box. But
Mm-hmm.
I again, kudos to you, because that's
Oh, thank you.
awesome,
Yeah.
really.
And that's not to say that that didn't happen with me where people didn't really know what hardware color they wanted, so they asked my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
For
And then
sure.
I was able to flex a little bit of
Yeah.
my own creativity muscle and just be like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, I suggest if you're doing this color that you do this hardware.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I trust you. And I'm like, sweet.
Have you ever
So yeah.
gotten a custom order where they're like, I don't care, I just know I want this kind of bag, and you can choose whatever
Yeah.
colors, whatever material? That's the most fun for me, because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
thank you, you've given me my canvas, now I get to
Yeah.
color it in, and that's
Yeah.
really fun.
I
I
mean,
did
not only that, but it's a testament to how much they trust you and how much,
exactly.
you've impacted them as far as like everything that you do, basically, they're okay with.
Hmm.
And so that's an amazing compliment.
Huge compliment that they trust your judgment so entirely that
Hmm.
doesn't matter. They're willing to pay you for whatever it is that you want to make for
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. I like there are artists in which I would absolutely do the same thing. So like I get
Hmm.
feeling that way. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to tell you to just make something for me. That can be challenging sometimes if you don't have
Mhm.
one aspect though of the like project that you need to kind of that your starting point is, right? For me it was always a pattern. Okay, this is the starting
Hmm.
point. But even when I kind of had some videos blow up on TikTok and stuff, and people are like, I don't care what it is, I'll just let me get a bag from you, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
nope, nope, I don't care that 200 of you want that. Nope, sorry, not
Yeah.
happening. It was very much a that's I think I just started with this goal of like I just want to make, and I was very resistant to somebody else telling me what to make. But
Mhm.
I again there at that and but that's also I mean that is a really smart way if that is your sole source of income because there's no guarantee that what you make today and that what you felt that you liked is going to sell today or sell
Yeah.
tomorrow or sell
Yeah.
3 weeks from now. And if you need that money now, it's if you can make exactly what people are willing to buy,
Hmm.
then I mean that makes a lot of sense, especially with you being the sole income in your house at that point. So
Hmm.
truly. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the whole designing process, if you're okay with that. Kind of like
Yeah.
from the point of inspiration to, hey, it gets promoted and it's out in existence. We've done
Okay.
this with a couple other designers as well. And so you can get as in depth and as technical as you like, or you cannot. That's totally up to you. Um, but I like to start from the inspiration kind of spot. Like, so essentially, where do you source inspiration? Do you just kind of see a designer handbag and you're like, oh, I like those aspects. Let me turn it into my own. Or you say, I like that designer handbag, but there's no patterns out there. I want it to exist for me to make
Yeah.
too. Or kind of where's your source of inspiration coming from?
So, both of what you just said, I've done that many times where I
Okay.
want that bag to exist in pattern form. Um, but I think it's 50-50. I'll see inspiration out in the wild. I'll purse watch, and then
Mm-hmm.
I don't really take covert photos, but I'll
Neither do
like quickly
I.
sketch something. Or I'll look on Pinterest or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tend towards bags that are like I get a lot of inspiration from like Michael Kors or Kate Spade or
Yeah.
something like that. But there's a lot of bags out there that are designed by, you can't really figure out who designed them, but then they're kind of picked up by a lot of different companies.
Okay.
And so you see that bag, but they have different logos on them all the time. And I'm like, you
Okay.
know what? That's kind of cool. It's kind of unique or funky or whatever. And I'm like, I bet. And then my brain starts saying, I bet you can put it together like this, or I bet,
Mm-hmm.
you can make that piece, like those two pieces, one piece or something like that. Like that's kind of, I don't want to say my thing, but that's something that I try to do a lot is how do I make two pieces that typically would be sewn together one piece? And
Okay.
that would take down the cutting process, the fusing process, like, and then it also throws you off a little bit when you're making it. Like, how is this going to work? And then you're
Mm-hmm.
done and you're like, oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that. But anyway, so I get probably 50-50 inspiration from that, Pinterest, seeing things in the wild, and then also sketches. So I would say probably a good amount of my patterns have been just me sketching out stuff that I just let my hand go or let my brain go. And I know Welkin and Zephyr were both sketches. Um, and Apricate and Janine were both customers bringing me a retail bag and saying, please recreate this. And Moonwake was, I think, um, the straps I saw on a different bag, a Michael Kors bag, but the rest of the bag was mine. Like I just wanted something simple because the straps were intricate enough. And of course, I always change it. I always change it just a little, tweak it a little, so it's mine and not theirs. Because I know when I went to college for graphic arts, they would talk about how like if you change something 3 times, it's different enough to be considered not the original.
Okay.
So, and I'm like, those changes have to be significant too, because you can't just
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh, a tweak here and now it's not the original. But I tried, my best. And so with inspiration comes like scaling. How big do I want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start breaking down and sketching out each of the pattern pieces. Then I measure my paper, create the pattern piece that I think it needs to be. And sometimes I will tape those paper pieces together to see if, like, does this curve work? Like, if that
Yeah.
curve is a little bit less curvy, does it work better or something like that? But my brain has always been really good at taking a flat piece and making it 3D, and where do you need to cut and trim and maybe pleat or something that makes something pop out the way you want it to pop out, or um, just kind of that spatial recognition of like, I
Yeah.
need this to be this or something,
Yeah.
like that. So I kind of fiddle around with paper for a while. And then in the recent years, I've started um, digitizing my patterns a little bit sooner than I used to in the process. I used to go a while and just work with my paper, like sketched and cut out pattern pieces for a while. But now, um, because, once I make a prototype and then I decide something needs to be adjusted, I'll go back to those pattern pieces I'll trim or I'll add paper. And then it just becomes this kind of like taped up, trimmed, weird mess of paper. So I decided to start digitizing my pattern pieces on my computer a little bit sooner in the process so that if I did need to tweak anything, I could do it on my computer instead of cutting and pasting paper all the time or cutting and taping paper. So now everything's kind of on my computer and I'm like, okay, this curve isn't curvy enough. So I just like tweak that line a little bit on my computer and then I'm able to test that again.
Yeah.
Um, I reuse all my paper as well, so nothing really, I try not to waste much. But then prototyping happens, and usually in my bags, I kind of get tired of myself for doing this, but there hasn't been a whole lot of my patterns that utilizes 100% known techniques. Um,
Yeah.
I have, I have, it seems like I'm constantly trying to find a new technique to do, and then and it takes a long time to test those things.
Mm-hmm.
um I'm always trying to figure something out rather than just be like, well, this is a pocket, it's a normal pocket, we use this type of pocket in a lot of different bags, and then just put it on a bag that has a shape and you're done with your pattern. Like,
Yeah,
for
that
me, it's
doesn't speak
always
to me.
I know it's I always have to be figuring something out, like with
I
I
describe it as unique solutions for unique problems.
yeah, like
And they're all
Vadin or something like
self-imposed.
that. Exactly. Like with Vadin or Solasta or whatever, like I had to figure out how to get that flap on there. And so I came up with a template where you mark your rivets and then you punch the holes, but don't set the rivets yet. And like you don't do that till the very end. That kind of thing, takes time to figure out the order of operations when you do your bag
Absolutely.
and what's best. So prototyping takes a long time for me. Um,
Same.
I'm sure there are ways that I could speed it up, but like Alexis is always on my case about not finishing prototypes. And she has a good point where she finishes every single prototype that she makes, like liner and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if it's going to work. So I don't want to put the liner in. But she's like, yeah, but if you put the liner in, then you'll know if the liner works. And then you can fix 12 problems at once rather than
That's
work on two
that's what I
problems.
try to do. Like most of my it's only like once I get the bones of the exterior done, then I will start working on the lining. But I will
Yeah.
wait until I get that done, and I won't
Yeah.
put like stabilizers or anything on them for the most part, and then I start adding that. But I do like to do finished prototypes because I can kill a lot of birds with one stone, or I can
Hmm.
test out a lot of different things. Because for me, like you said earlier, you would like sit down, work on this one aspect, and then try to
Hmm.
tweak it, and then get up and tweak it, and then get back, sit back down, and so I don't like to do that. That for me, it's just like I try to go the most fun path in all of this that I can in every aspect of my business. If it's not fun, I'm like, okay, well, we don't need to do that. There's another way. Like it's okay if it
Yeah.
takes longer. But that's just me. I'm a very intuitive person in that way, and a maker and a designer. And it's and so I listen to myself very, very avidly all the time. Like, oh, I don't like that.
Hmm.
Well, then we don't do that.
Hmm.
But no, I totally get what you're saying too about the as I say, the unique solutions for unique problems. I think that there there are some of us makers and designers, and this is no shame to anyone else, but some of us really like and find comfort in a lot of the traditional techniques. And a lot of us like to challenge those or push the limit, push your creativity to critical think, to just find different ways of doing things. And like I said, I don't like getting put in a box. So I've
Yeah.
also always been someone who genuinely appreciates a good challenge, likes to find something new. I love techniques. Techniques are my favorite part of bag making. I
Hmm.
love to learn how to do things 10 different ways, and then I can choose what
Hmm.
fits best for this next project. And so I have always really, I've tried to do that with all of my designs. Tuesday Tote excluded from that because it's a tote. Um, but we all have one of those. Um, but yeah, I've always same. It's kind of I it's funny because I'm talking to you, and I don't want to even call myself a designer because like you are so like your designs are so, that avant-garde part of your business name is very accurate. You push
Thank
the limits,
you.
you push the designs, you do all that stuff, and like this is a bit of a tangent, but I don't know if you ever read some of those posts in creative bag making and so whatever, where people are like, what's the bag that takes the least amount of effort, that looks the greatest, or what's your go-to, like just kind of like things like that. And as a designer, I do click on those posts because I'm like, did somebody say my name at some point in the
Hmm.
post? And there are plenty of posts where my name is not brought up, but there's not one of those posts where your name is not brought up.
Oh no. Thank
But
you.
I don't know if you ever see that or notice that, but I will say that that is like something that I have really noticed, and I think you should be really proud of yourself because all
Thank
that work,
you.
all that critical thinking, all those unique solutions for unique problems, it's paid off for you, and like
Thank you.
kudos to you because you've really got an eye and a mind for it,
Thank you.
truly.
And that specifically is very special coming from you because I really put a mirror up to you and say all that right back to you. Um,
Thank you.
Honestly, yeah, like I feel like you used to be on my tester team.
I was for a
I'm
very
pretty sure
brief
you
amount of time.
tested you tested Zephyr for me, I
I
think.
did. I did.
And I just remember your bags and instantly wanted you on my team. And then I think you only tested the one and said you wanted to focus on designing. And I was excited to see what you
I
had come up with.
I've brought it up on the show that like I'd only really officially been on one test team, and that was yours, and that was for this. I call it the Zephyr. That's not right,
Oh,
apparently. Zephyr.
no.
But yeah, I kind of knew I'm a person with a very inherent kind of guilty conscience. So like
Mm.
we're working on it. But so knowing that I wanted to design a pattern, but I didn't want you to think like, oh, I told you right away. And I was like, I'm going to work on this. Like the pattern that I have in my mind doesn't exist. And that was the very beginning. I saw this bag in like Kohl's or something. And I'm like, I mean, this is kind of what I'm going for, but I want it in Shannon form. And so I wanted to just design it, but I didn't want to release a pattern. I just wanted to design it, but I didn't want you to be like, what do you hear, sourcing stuff? You know, like she's a,
Like sourcing my
she's a
process.
mole. She's a mole. And
Not at all.
so I was like, thank you for letting me test. I tested. It
Yeah.
was great. And then I was like, I'm doing this. I'm sorry. And like, please don't hate me, but I'm not going to test anymore. Also, I was getting pretty busy with striking at that time
Yeah.
and bag making. So I did leave, but no, I had a great time. And like I said, really my only testing experience.
Hey, that's kind of exciting
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah, I did test 2 other wallet patterns that were very brief, and it was more of a like a last minute, like, hey, do you mind testing this?
Mm,
Essentially more of me striking it. Um,
mm.
but yeah, no, you were the first like real test team. Honestly, I don't even remember much from it. Um,
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I know. I said before we started recording, I can't remember, said like you were talking about all the years in which you did everything, and I was like, I have no idea. I said 2023 in Georgia's podcast episode a couple episodes ago. Like talking, I said, what do you have planned for the rest of 2023?
Oh
I
my
literally
God.
said that. I have no
You know,
idea what year it
that's
is.
funny that I probably would not have caught it if you had said it either. I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. That's
Yeah,
right.
clearly. How are we in 2026?
Uh,
Nobody can tell, but no,
no, I
absolutely.
mean, gosh, I would say, um,
Sorry.
and we did get off on a tangent. I can come back to the rest of my process in a bit, but
Absolutely. We'll get
um,
back there.
I would say that 2020, I can't even, it's hard to even say that word, that year, but it was my, I would say breakout creativity, developing my business year.
Mm-hmm.
That one was the one for me. And not that I haven't had good ones since, but it was you're young in this, not young in age necessarily, but young in this an endeavor. You put everything into it. You
Mm-hmm.
developed so much that year from
Yeah.
start to finish. The growth, that year was my year. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it didn't really have anything to do with the state of what 2020 was and the events of that year. But it was more of a like, I have this opportunity and I'm also forced to stay home.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna take that opportunity
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
Just
not feel
seize it.
guilty about it.
Yeah. Just celebrate it as like what
Hmm.
you have the opportunity to do. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely. Why not? Why not? Like
why not?
that's kind of a good way to think about it, being thrown into a situation like that. Make the best of it.
Hmm.
So many of us did that in 2020. I don't even look back on that year as a bad year. Like, I think that it
Yeah.
was just kind of like, it's funny because being a military spouse, this is a real tangent, but being a military spouse, there's so much of your aspects of your life where you're like, I can't do anything about that. Like
Hmm.
that choice is made for me. And so there's a comfort in that in some way of like knowing that you don't have another option. So you make the
Hmm.
best of it when you can. And so I've been able to kind of take that mentality and apply it in different aspects of my life. And I think that COVID and 2020, 2021, all those things that kind of happened and like how that year was for so many of us, it wasn't that hard for me because it was like, I
Hmm.
mean, okay, this is the hand we're dealt, this is what we're doing,
Yeah.
and we just go forth and conquer. And so
Yeah.
I was already kind of predisposed to accepting that. And
Yeah.
so many people look back on that time, they're like, it was the worst. I'm like, oh, it was the pandemic, we were all shut down. And I'm like, no, I was teaching my neighbor's kids how to ride bikes. Like, it was great.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, absolutely. All right,
That
so
time for me, as far as like military wife, and that's amazing. Thank your husband for his service.
thank you.
Um, I was the wife of not only an essential worker because he worked. I mean, he was working while going to school, and his essential work was just grocery store. He was a grocery store clerk because he needed something while he was going to school, but he was going to school, he was in medical school. And so I'm like, this extra level of being scared about what's going on because my husband could be in the thick of it or bring something home or whatever. And thankfully at the time we were living in an apartment where we had a washing machine right next to the door, the front door. So he would
He
come
would.
home and strip right into the washer.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this is our reality right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was difficult because for him especially too, like his medical schooling was pushed to online, which is so not the kind of platform you need to learn medical stuff like how to take blood and IVs and stuff like
Right.
that.
Exactly.
And then so he kind of had to power through going in person and during that time. So it was a very like we've never had anything like this happen to us in our lifetime, unprecedented. We just kind of have to figure it out as we go kind of time, which
Mm-hmm.
is reminiscent of how my business was. We had to figure it out as we go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're the new expert of that day on that day,
Yeah.
you know, and tomorrow's a whole
Yeah.
new day and you have to learn how to be an expert in that day too.
Yeah.
It's very much
And
you
I don't
have to.
have anyone to fall back on, and I don't have a boss to tell me what I need to do that day. Like I
Yeah.
have to do it. I have to be that person for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Just last episode, I had brought up, I was talking with Jess Vandenberg from So Many Creations,
yeah, I love her.
and we were kind of just talking about essentially the challenges of owning a business today, you know, and it's funny because a week before that, I was talking with Lauren, and you know, I was just talking about how I feel a little bit lost and stuff. So I brought it up in the episode, and it was one of the things Lauren had said to me that has stuck with me, and I think will never leave me, and really just kind of shifted my brain a little bit in a different way to always think about my business. Is that like, what does your business look like today? It's okay to figure that out. Like, it's okay to
Mhm.
ask yourself that now, because what business looked like for you in 2017 and 2019 looks so different than business today in 2026. I got the year right. And then so the same thing for me. I mean, business in 2021 before I even tested the wallet for you, then looks so different than business in 2023 and now business in 2026. Like it's very different. And I think that being open and willing to receive the whatever curveballs are coming your way and just kind of work with it is absolutely important and critical in your business, and not being closed-minded to those opportunities too and celebrating when they come, but then also recognizing that like sometimes it's just hard and you don't know where to go next and you just kind of have to hope for the best or wait until you
Mhm.
figure it out. um, but I think that was a lot of us also in 2020. What does life look like now?
Mhm.
Well, a lot different than it looked like in 2019 and even
Yeah,
since then.
yeah. I think for me, putting my head down and just remaining busy every single day was a huge help to keep me from falling into the pit of just despair
Hmm.
of, a lot of us felt that fatigue after those years of just adjusting all the time and surviving and not thriving and that
Yeah,
kind of thing. But like the busyness really helped me with that.
yeah.
Um, and the goal of growing despite those hardships.
Hmm.
And um, it's funny too because recently, like I feel like those trials are no longer I'm no longer facing
Yeah,
those trials of we've come far enough that we're now facing new things or different things.
yeah.
And
Looks different
the
today.
the the years of having my head down and just working, just powering through have come full circle to me just being like, I need a rest. And I eased up on my business so much last year because of that. I mean, it was because of a lot of reasons, but I was able to do that, which was nice. I had a foundation where I was able to ease up a bit, but also at the same time fed in like I not being busy fed into me negatively. And so
Yeah.
I'm now fighting that coming back around and being
Hmm.
like digging myself out of a hole right now mentally. And I feel like I am on an upswing, so that's good. But like the waves, the ups and downs of life is just it's evident in every part of your life. And business is so tied to our hearts when you're in
Yes. Hmm.
um a
It's our
creative
special.
area.
It's there's so much responsibility and
Yeah.
accountability and
Yep.
like ownership of of this thing you've created, and it's on
Yes.
you. It's you. Like, it's it.
Yeah.
And so if you're having a bad day, okay, but there's nobody else to do your business. So there's also self-imposed pressure that comes with it. So I did want to talk about, I did notice that you slowed down a little bit in your business, and I have that on my list of questions. So if we can come back to that, that would be good, because I'd like to definitely talk more about that and get some, get more in depth with it as well. But so, because I want to talk about it later, can we hop back to the design process?
Yes.
So
yes,
that we don't, because we're going to tangent our way away from that permanently. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. So we were at the point where you're talking about Alexis does full prototypes and you don't always.
Yeah. Not always. Yeah.
Not always. So when do you get to the point where you are doing full prototypes?
I tend to perfect, I want to say that in quotes,
for sure,
the
Absolutely.
exterior before I move on to the liner. The prototype I'm working on right now, which, big news, you heard it here first. I do have one that is almost ready for testers. And that's something big for me to say, because there's been a lot that I have just trashed this last couple of months. So, where was I? Yes, I finished the exterior, perfect it to what I feel like it should be. And then I move on to the liner. And then there's a couple times where I'm like, I've gotten to the point where I have to tweak so little that I think the next one is good enough that I can start photographing the steps. And I'm confident that whatever tweaks I make, those ones will work and it'll be fine and I can photograph. So then I get to the point where I am sewing, photographing. I'll make sure that I have every step done, because if you miss a step photographing, it is hard to go backwards.
You have to do the whole thing over again, or start from the point A and just continue till that point. So do you type up your instructions before you get to that point of photographing? Oh my gosh.
No. I photograph first. And that way I know I have a visual of what each step is, and then I type and I put, I don't know if you remember this about my patterns, but I break them up into sections. I think a lot of people do that, but I break them up into sections, and each section corresponds with a video. So I want to break it up in thinking about the way that it would work best in a video or work best in the process, and all of that together factors in. So I have all my photos and I put them each in a folder, and then I have main panel, and then I have like straps and all these different folders, and I put the photos in there. It takes a while to edit all the photos too, because like if my color was off or my lighting was off,
I know.
there's usually about like 250 process videos or photos, not videos. And then after they're all edited, upload them to my computer, and then I start writing. Those reference pages before the instructions begin are always my favorite, because I feel extra accomplished once those are done. Like the cut chart, the materials list, the whatever. I always add a page for like, what if you want to make this bag out of full cotton? Like, what interfacing changes do you need to make? Modifications do you need to make to the pattern in order to do a full cotton bag, or something like that? Those ones make me feel the most accomplished, because they are the most uniform. All of my patterns have those pages, so I'm able to just and my graphic arts design like background makes me love the layout of the pages. I love adding the photos and doing the labels and adding kind of an artistic flair to what the pages look like. And then the instructions happen, and that takes about, I want to say like 4 days ish. Like 2 days if it's a smaller pattern like sky or something like that, up to a week or so to write the patterns. And then once, I don't ever finish completely before the testers get it. There's no time, I need the testers to have it in their hands so that they can start their time with it. And then I can tweak a lot of the things that need to be tweaked, like
Mm-hmm.
the piece labels at the end or whatever needs to be tweaked. The cover page is usually not done when I give it to the
Yeah, that's
testers,
one. Honestly,
things like that.
that's very late in the process for me is the cover photo because
Because you need to make the bags in order to photograph them in order to
yeah.
have those photos. So,
So I'm a little bit opposite from you. So when I get done, when I finally feel like, okay, I've tweaked everything that I wanted to tweak, then actually like 2 bags before that, I'll make when I know that I'm very close and maybe I need to make the digital pieces so that they're perfect angles and things like mirrored curves and all that stuff.
yeah.
And then I have to make a couple more bags to see, okay, well, now that the pieces are official, I need to make sure there's no other tweaks I need to make. But then when I sit down to write my instructions, I have sewn it so many times start to finish that I know the order in which I do it now. I know what feels natural. I know what okay, well, I have wanted to do this part before I did this next part every single time, even though when I first started, it was the reverse. So now
Yeah.
I've gotten to that point of knowing what my flow is that I just type up from memory. I genuinely construct the bag seam by seam and I type it up. But I also think about how I want it to be photographed. And so then I will have my text or my picture frames, essentially is what they are in Illustrator or in design. And so I will see like, okay, well, I know that this one, I want to have 2 pictures. I want to show 2 angles of it. And that way, when I am making the process, I follow my own instructions to the T and can edit as I go. But then I also know that I need to show these 2 angles at the same time. So I kind of, I follow my own instructions and fill in the blanks just with pictures. And then that's when testers get it for me. So my bag is mostly always done, if not like for like the final couple things like, okay, well, maybe I need to press the bag or maybe I need to make the strap or, like things like that. So mine's pretty close to being done at that point. But yeah, it does take me at least 3 to 4 days, no matter how complex the design is, just because I'm working from memory and like I'm trying to like phrase and rephrase and think about how I may want to do this or like, you know what, it would make more sense, even though I want to do it this way, it makes more sense to drag this section up higher. So same thought process, just like reverse, like or same idea but reverse.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you photograph first. I would be guaranteed I would forget. I would just get in the flow and sew a seam and go to the next one. And then it's so obvious in the pictures that I forgot to do. I do that sometimes even when I'm following my own instructions. Like I just forget and I'm like, okay, top stitch the next thing. And I'm like, shit.
Yeah, that's funny. I think those days, the photographing steps days are always very tiresome for me. Like at the end of the day, I'm very tired. I'm not tired. Or what's that saying? I'm tired but not worn out.
Okay.
Like
exhausted.
I use my brain a lot. Yeah. It's a very brain day for me so that I don't get ahead of myself and just keep sewing when I needed to photograph those steps instead. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to put this photo into my instructions. And I'm going to put a little note right here that says, if you're doing it this way instead, make sure you do this or like whatever, and then I get really excited about adding those little details of like taking care of somebody who might not want to do it the way I'm doing it. Like make sure they know there's a way you can do it the way you want to. You just have to do this instead. And I think people appreciate those little things, but in my mind, it's my control freak that's coming through where I'm like, I know you like it that I'm giving you this pointer or this reference or whatever. Like, here's how you make a cotton bag. Don't just make it the way I tell you to make it. You have to make modifications. That is a good resource for people, but it's also me controlling you.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. But then also, like, one of my goals with every pattern that I write is that I don't want to leave anyone hanging at any point in the process. If you have a question at some point of like, well, what about this? Well, I want to try my best to acknowledge that and get ahead of that for you. But we've also learned that not everyone takes all those things that we write in there for all those little situations and actually listens to them. They're like, No, it's okay. I got it. Definitely wish people would take those things a little bit more. Like, I promise you, I'm looking out for you while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like, why else would I put it in there? Why else would I
Just try
photograph
to
it?
head off those questions before they even have those questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's a little thrill for me to be like, I know you didn't even ask that, but this is the answer to your question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Truly. Okay, so testers get it. How long do
Yeah.
testers have it?
Testers have it for 3 weeks. The first week, I usually take a break,
Okay.
a tiny break. I don't give myself the whole week, but I do tell my testers, I say, can some of you please start immediately? I don't require everyone to start immediately, but if you can, I need a couple people to start immediately just so I know this is doable. I didn't leave out something terrible, or I'm not the only one who can figure out what my crazy brain is saying here.
Exactly.
Because in week 2, I start filming.
Yeah.
So I need that feedback from a few people to be like, yes, okay, you're good. Because I am not refilming.
Yeah.
I've done it before, but it is hard. So week 2, I usually can get filming done in one day unless things go really awry. And then for the rest of the time, I'm editing my videos. I have gotten faster, but some of my patterns have 15 videos attached, and they can be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. I try to keep it under 25 minutes for each video. But I also want to grab the opportunity to show you everything that I'm doing. I hardly ever speed up my sewing in the videos. I hardly ever do something off camera. I want you to see me doing it so you know that it's possible to do it. And then you can gain that confidence that like, okay, it's possible. Even if I have a hard time with it now, it's practicable and I can figure that out.
No, that's fair.
So that's my videos. The testers have it for 3 weeks. Then I'm done. If I'm done filming my videos, I upload them. So film, edit, upload them to YouTube, grab the links, put them into the file, create the QR codes. My video links also have QR codes in the files. And then I have to tie up all the loose ends, do the listing, grab all of the tester photos down from Facebook.
Double check all links.
All the links, finish all the pages, make sure that I double check my cut chart at that point and my piece labels at the end that have you can cut them out and clip them to your pieces once you cut them. They always have measurements on them, so I always double check those. What else is there? I always schedule posts in my group and things like that beforehand. And then at the point where I'm saving the file as a PDF and then uploading it to the website, it's always the anxiety of what did you forget? You know you forgot something. You're going to have to address some sort of the first person who downloads it going to be this is the wrong file or something that whole craziness goes on in your head. And then once it's uploaded and it's launched, I always have the moment where I'm just this is either perfect or because I spent so much time on it, or everything's wrong and I'll have to close my website at least for a time to fix everything that's wrong. But no, I've never had anything go like that before. So it gets to be a very step-by-step process, which helps me a lot. The structure of it is something that makes me so at ease through it all because I have a focus. Each day has a focus and the goal-oriented check-off list that I have basically.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I'm so very proud of how I've cultivated this process for myself because I know how I work. I know it's not the same way everyone else works.
But it works for you.
It works for me and my team. And even my tester team is very structured when it comes to the process of how they give me feedback, how they upload their photos.
How do they give you feedback?
So I always have one post that is let's take Moonwake, for example. Like, this is the Moonwake feedback post. Post your comments below. Always, if you are posting feedback, please go through the comments and make sure that someone else hasn't said it first. I usually don't respond to those comments on that post until I'm ready to edit my file. And then I'll like each one as I go and make sure, like, if somebody says, you said 1/4 inch here, but you meant 3/8 of an inch here or something, I won't like that comment until I make the change in my file. So I know I've addressed that piece of feedback. And then, so that's how they gave me feedback. And then about 3 days or so before the launch, I grab all the photos, I make a tester schedule, and then, if a launch is about a week long, I will post the tester schedule and I'll say, things like, please make sure you're following rules in other groups when you post those photos in other groups. Like, if you're not allowed to advertise the pattern, don't advertise the pattern. Wait for somebody to ask in the comments or whatever. Like, I don't want to ever be too overbearing with posts and things like that, but just get it out there.
Yeah.
The algorithm is working against us at all times. So we have to be able to be strategic about those things. So I post the schedule, and then it's been a while. I think that's probably it. Then we launch, and I post mine every day because I usually make about 6 to 7 promo bags for, I missed the photographing step. So I always have a day of photographing, like my photo shoot, the big shoot that I do with all the bags and whatnot. And I usually have ideas, like I have this one corner in my house I really want to put a bag in because it's a cute corner. And so I actually sometimes make a bag that matches that corner or something. My husband is trying to get me to do at least one fandom bag every time. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea, but he always helps me with, like, you should make this bag into a Star Trek bag, or you should make this bag into LOTR or whatever. And I do comply sometimes, but he has a small following on Blue Sky, and he's always trying to post my stuff. He's like, make fandom bags. They will love it. And I'm like, okay, I will. So he's always posting me. It's so cute. But anyways, so yeah, and then we launch, and then the launch usually lasts about a week, and I go into a promo, and then I just sleep. Sleep.
No, that's fair. There's a recovery process that has to happen.
Yep.
After it's just, for me, it's a lot longer than I ever thought it needed to be. I learned over time that, like, there's so much. It's not over when you release the pattern either, because then you're waiting for the general public's feedback, and waiting and receiving that and then processing that is its own whole experience, and you need to give yourself time to do that. Like, you have to, like, I mean, I say you, I'm really projecting there. I have to, like, I can't just ignore it. I have to, I hate that it really gets in my head, but like, I have so much self-doubt as it is. So like, when I release a pattern, it's like, everybody's going to hate it. Everybody's going to hate it. And so I'm essentially just waiting for the first negative feedback. That's essentially what I'm doing.
Yes. It is always really special for me to see the first non-tester bag.
Oh my gosh.
The first customer purchased bag posted is the most special, one of the most special parts of this process.
I love it.
But when it comes to like negative feedback, I'm always worried about it, but I don't have like the most experience with negative feedback, which is great. But I remember specifically there was some, like when I launched Welkin, there was like a split down the middle of people who were not afraid to tell me how ugly it was, and other people who said they loved it.
I don't remember.
It's the backpack that has a flap, but the back goes up a little bit as like a frame.
With the rectangular back?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember specifically someone posted in a group their tester bag, and there was a comment. Of course, I don't remember who it was. I wouldn't even commit that to memory anyway. But she said, she's like, I would really love to make this bag, but in my heart, I know how ugly it is. And you replied to her, and you just said, what? You just said what?
I don't even remember that. This is a prime example of my memory. Okay, guys, this happened. I believe
Yeah.
you. I don't
Yeah.
remember this at all. I love this
It's
for
okay.
me.
I felt very supported. Thank
Oh, you're
you.
welcome. I'm sorry that that
But
happened again, apparently. I'm
it
sorry
was
again.
weird. It was a weird it was a weird, you know, part of my life or like section of my life where that didn't get to me as much as it would have a different time at a,
Because you just
like
felt
I
more
might have been just at a,
confident in your own choices,
yeah.
you think?
Yeah, that and I know that I had sketched that bag out years prior. It was one that came exclusively from my brain. I did not see this inspired somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
This one was a brain one.
Yeah.
And I love posting those behind the scenes. Like I posted the sketch I did
Mm-hmm.
in probably 2017 or something like that of Welkin and I'm like, this is where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to basically be like,
I
you're
like
calling
it.
it ugly? This is where like just tell me to my face.
Mm-hmm. Well,
No, but it was,
I will say though, like it has to be terrifying for you. Well, again, always with the projecting. This is what I do. I would
mhm,
imagine it would be terrifying for me when you're one of the designers that does not share anything before.
yeah,
You do little
yeah,
sneak peeks. They drive me up the wall because I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is, Erica. Thank
I
you.
know.
Um, but I've always been mainly because when I designed the Gaia, I was just making the pattern for me to use. I didn't plan to write it as a pattern, but it was so well received on the end of people seeing the process, seeing it grow, waiting
Yeah.
for it, and things like that. And I got feedback, I love that, or I don't love that. That's a cool aspect. Like it gave me confidence in those ways. But so I was like, well, I'm always going to do that because the debilitating fear for me of releasing it and then having everybody's going to have their opinions. Negative opinions are allowed. Like, yes, they hurt. There is space for that. But there is, I don't know. I don't know how you guys do it when you don't share it at all and get any feedback beforehand or like, I would have, it's already hard enough and they already see it. They're just waiting for it,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess it's the
Yeah.
same thing as when I posted the first time. But I do have
Yeah.
time to change it if I got that feedback that you got. I probably would
Yeah.
have been like, well, that's going in the trash. And,
Yeah.
that's not good either, So I guess there's give and take there because, you just have to have confidence and move forward with it, I guess. It's really all we can
Yeah.
do.
And the ways that you're different from me they're beautiful, the ways that we are different,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also very consistent because I noticed when you were talking about before with the custom orders, how much you could say that, like you wanted to do your own thing and you felt
Mm-hmm.
like you were in a box, whereas I could contribute my okayness with being in that box as people pleasing characteristics in me.
Okay.
Whereas
And now
that is
I'm
what's
on.
driving me to not post anything about my
That's
bag before
fair.
it's done. Whereas you're like, I I don't care. This is for me. I don't care, about the feedback. Like you care about the feedback, but you know what I mean? It's not going to adjust what you're doing to the point of like changing your whole bag.
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay like posting those things beforehand. And I've always noticed that with you and I've always felt like what would it be like to be someone who's okay showing those? I'm very like
Because the
keep
first
everything
prototype is so
in.
different.
Yeah, yeah, it is true. And I love showing my process when it comes to behind the scenes photos, but only after the launch.
Mm-hmm.
I always seem to be okay with that. And I have a blog on my website. I typically write one for each launch, but there isn't very many on there. Um, but I like to talk about things like where my names came from or like who inspired this bag
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. So they're usually in the blog post, but it's always after the fact for me. I don't know what keeps me from holding my cards
Well,
so tight.
but it's still yours. It's special, So
Yeah.
like the second, like for me though, I need the motivation. We talked about this in the
Mhm.
last episode, but I need a fire under my ass. I need accountability
Mhm.
here. I need you to know that I'm working on something, and the second that
Yeah.
I share it, I need that puts some frame of a deadline in my brain
Mhm.
and fuels me to keep going. Um, And I've always been very open about it. Like, I try my best to meet whatever deadline that I'm not supposed to announce, but I always say in some capacity. And when I don't make it, I feel so bad. But it
Yeah.
also makes, it really does make, like, it's so funny because in Elizabeth Mraz's episode, she was saying how, she's more efficient when she has less time. So the busier she is, the more
Hmm.
efficient she is with her time. And I've never looked at it from that point of view, except for I had a therapist once tell me that if you have all day to clean the living room, it takes you all day. So
Yeah.
it's the same frame of mind. And so for me, I need to feel busy. I need to feel like I can't wait. I need the pressure. I need the self-imposed
Hmm.
pressure that I put too much of on myself as it is. And it's so funny because I think because I'm a bit of an outlier in how much I share before a pattern release, people are so supportive. They're like, take
Hmm.
your time, honey, we'll wait. Like,
Hmm.
I love that. Like, I'm always like, can you guys just sit in my sewing room all the time,
Yeah.
please? Because, like, this is the vibe that needs to happen in my head that doesn't, but I need it so much.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And I get those aggressive compliments of like, hurry up, we all want it. And
oh,
I'm
I
like,
mean, I see those too.
okay.
I can't
Yeah.
wait. Well, you have to. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I can only work so fast.
Yeah. What about what? So, like, every once in a while, when you release a pattern and you do the sneak peeks, I have to go into the comments to see who's angry about your sneak
Yeah.
peek.
Yep. Yep. I'm like, I sneak so close to the launch. It's fine. You probably aren't even seeing this post until a couple days later anyway, so you don't have long to wait.
That's true. That's true. You're pretty good at it though, because like, and nobody
Thanks.
knows what the hell it is that you're posting except for that
It's
it's
my
part of a
secretive
bad
nature.
bag. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'll ask the testers to sneak a couple days ahead of time too, but I'll tell them I'm like one or two people, one or two, like don't flood it.
Mm-hmm.
People hate it.
Yeah.
But I usually sneak when I'm giving my my main group, the heads up on what hardware to get if they want to hit the ground running with it. Just like this is the hardware requirements and the fabric requirements. Here's a sneak peek, and that's kind of um, a set kind of scheduled post that I'll do in the process. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into why you slowed down, I want to ask one more thing about your designing process. This was one of Carrie's questions as well for a listener question, but I wanted to make sure that we addressed it in the show because I didn't type it up in that part of the paper, so I won't say it when I flip the paper over. But about your naming convention, you've talked about this before. You really there's a word for like loving words and their meanings and finding
Yeah.
words that kind of are kind of out there on the outside of normal everyday use, but they mean something very special.
Mhm.
And so I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, and then we can move on again to the
Yeah.
next subject.
I have always been a lover of strange things, strange words specifically. I don't really know why that developed in me. Not anything, I can't pinpoint anything that kind of influenced that in me, but um I think it all stems from my need to be unique, I think. Um I have a need to be unique and I have a need to surprise people, I think. Maybe because I always felt, I don't know, growing up, maybe I always felt very run of the mill or something, like nothing special, like
Okay.
not stuff from my childhood, whatever. But I always need to be unique, whether it's like how I color my hair or how I um you put together a pattern and you can't believe how it went together. Like be different than what everybody kind of expects from me. So with the naming stuff, it's they always have to do with nature. And I always name a bag for somebody special in my life. So I will pick that person and then I'll say, what's your favorite thing about nature? Whatever answer they give me, I go and find the unique word that kind of encompasses that. Like, for instance, Zephyr is named for my sister. Zephyr has to do with like the wind, the feeling of the wind. And she had her own business doing nails, and she was Zephyr Nails. So I named that for her. And Rudinea is for Alexis, and lots of other things. But um, it always has to do with nature, and it's always sometimes it's a word in a different language, and I always try and find somebody from that culture to ask them if there's any negative connotation around this word. Is it okay if I use this word, in your opinion? Rudinea is a Lithuanian word. Hinterland comes from Germany, that kind of thing. And Vaden is Hungarian. So I I just feel like it's unexpected, and I picked a word for my latest pattern, which is a huge step in my process. Um, when I start a bag, I usually don't have a name for it yet. And in the process, when I start feeling like, yes, this bag will work out, I usually go and try and find a name at that point. And I'm so sentimental. My heart is so like, um, everything has meaning, and it's very sentimental for me, to where once I name the pattern, it's almost like I've imprinted it like a child. And now everything kind of falls into place a little easier because I'm pouring more passion into it, I think. Once it has its name. This pattern got its name like 2 days ago.
Oh,
So I'm very excited
you're
about
feeling
how
it.
well it's gonna start to go,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been working on it for a while. It has stumped me a bit for a while, but I just changed it up and I'm liking the direction it's going. So now it has a name, and I'm excited because, like, a lot of the names, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to pronounce them, like Rudinea.
I know. I call
And
it Rudeneja because I
it's
use
close.
the J as
Yeah.
like a Spanish J where it's a ha.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So,
are probably closer than most people who try. So, um, and then a lot of people like Harieth, they don't know how to say that either, but
mhm.
that's
I
fine.
know. I call it
I'm not
Hireth.
upset. Hiraeth. A lot of people say Hiraeth, but I try to say it in my videos
Hmm.
enough to be like, okay, and also here's how you say it. But it's fine. It doesn't bother me
Hmm.
if you mispronounce it.
I'm one of those people that don't watch videos for pattern
Yeah,
instructions, so I wouldn't
yeah,
hear you say it unless I watch like maybe an introductional video or something.
yeah.
But most of the time, I feel like I'm not saying it anyway. I'm typing it
Right,
99% of the time,
exactly.
so it's easy.
Yeah. So names have always been the a big part of my business. I just want to collect or curate a collection of interesting names,
Hmm.
I guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they
name's
always have
great.
to do with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you pick the person first or after?
I
I mean
would
before you designing the bag, I should say.
not necessarily before. I
Okay.
just I usually have a design on the mind, and then in that season of life there's somebody I'm really connecting with. It'll be them. Or like, I haven't picked you yet. I need to pick you. So we'll go and we'll talk. You know what I mean? Like that kind of
Okay.
thing.
I thought you were talking to me. I was
And
like, but why?
well, eventually, I mean, no, but like Alaula was for my tester Debbie, and Celesta, or Samarin was for Lauren. I made a whole
I
blog
remember
post about
that
that
one.
one. So yeah, it's just that at that point in time, I was teaching for her, and I had I had taught a couple times for her, and she was just very special to me, and I mean, it still is, but it was time to name one for her, so I did, and I usually have the design first, and then I also love alliteration, so if it's like I had a sling on the mind, so I'm like, okay, the name has to start with S.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a name, but I don't have that design yet, because the sling I was working on didn't work out. So I'm going to try for a different one. But I do love alliteration, Harieth handbag, Hinterland handbag, or whatever, Brystone bag, that kind of thing. Um, always typically has alliteration. This one does not because of the letter it starts with doesn't have any name
Yeah.
for bag that I can
Distinguishing
put.
factor to add on the end. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
line up. Yeah, I
But
also
that's
like
okay.
when I was trying to name the Tuesday tote, it was the teacher tote for the longest time because
Oh,
it was alliteration. And
yeah.
then the Tuesday tote worked out. But no, I do a same idea. I didn't know that yours were tied to people until the Lauren post.
Yeah.
But so I've always done the same thing where it's a strong woman or female, and one of them is my cat, except for Tuesday Toe. Tuesday Toe is completely different because that was just something that I didn't even really want to be a pattern, but I was like told to make it a pattern, and then it did well. And so, but that's the only one. But everyone else is kind of like, it's like adjacent to the person that I'm like thinking about. And I always write up a little something at the end of the pattern. They pick out little like one-liner dad jokes and they get put in the pattern as like a hide and seek kind of thing. But like, so Gaia is my cat. She's a raging bitch, but it's fine. No, she's actually she's mellowed out and she's so sweet as an adult now. I should say as a senior because she will be 16 in almost exactly 1 month.
Amazing.
I can't believe she's so healthy. It's so wonderful. She's a little deaf, but it's okay. It's just funny that we startle her, you know.
She wasn't paying attention to you anyway.
No, but she'll be like laying down and I walk up and she's just like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but that was funny. I'm sorry. You made me laugh.
Hilarious.
Thank you. But, and then like, so like Aries is for my cousin. She's an Aries, you know? And so I don't like to do names that are like so obviously who they're for, but and so it's nice to kind of know that you're kind of dedicating it to somebody, but something that is like a, if you know, you know.
Exactly.
Like the Adina, I don't know if you know this one. It was named after Nikki Kinder because her actual name is Adina. But like, if you know, you know. And so it's kind of like the same thing. It's really nice to, when you have some personal, it makes it mean more. It's already special, but it makes it even more special. And I think that also, like in the same kind of line of thinking, if you should take every opportunity to make things special for you and fun for you. And like when it's your own business, you're not put in a box. You can just do this shit and like, it's okay. It's okay. If I want to sign my email as HBIC, I'm going to do it. And for those that don't know, that means head bitch in charge. Okay. Like that's what I'm going to do. And like, who's going to tell me I'm wrong? My boss? She sucks, but she tolerates it. So it's fine. But yeah, no, I love that. And it's so unique, your names, you know. And I always like hearing about naming conventions. I had Jenny on from Sincerely Jen, and we talked about hers, which is always fun. Like I like yours, but hers are my favorite, you know. I mean, anyone who has a bag called, you know, Ugly Naked Guy is hilarious. Like, pop off, queen. Absolutely. So to take it back to what we mentioned earlier, I noticed that, like, so you released one pattern last year, and it was a full year before that. It had been a full year since you had released a pattern. I could be wrong. We know my brain doesn't work well with dates and times. But so why did you slow down so much? Was it because you didn't need to make so much? Were you burnt out? Was it an intentional slowdown?
Not for that long. No, I experienced a pet death.
Okay.
It was in October. Well, it was at the very end of September 2024.
Okay.
It was my cat, and I feel a bit silly. I don't want to, but I feel a bit silly that triggered so much stalling in my life, because a lot of people experience.
Let's not invalidate it.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, it's valid.
That's what I want to do, but my brain doesn't allow me to do that. I want to say that pain was valid and that pain happened to you and it affected a lot of things. But in my mind, it's like, yeah, people go through that all the time. You didn't just buck up and do it. You know, that's where my brain goes.
I just cried the night before last about the cat that I lost. And
I know you lost a cat.
And in January of that year. Like I can't even look through pictures of him. I still don't have a picture of him in my house.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
So
I'm
sorry if this is hard to hear, but
no, it's okay. I mean, it can be hard and it's still okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize I have a type with cats. So I've had 3 with my husband and they've all been tabbies. The first one was the best cat I've ever had. Her name was Solstice, and she was super cute, super nice. We taught her tricks. We would tell her to be cute and she'd roll over on her back and put her feet in the air and like show us her belly, and then we give her treats. she passed at about 6 to 7 years old from cancer.
Oh, that's so
As soon as
young.
we got the diagnosis for her, there was no like treatment. It was immediate, like
Yeah.
she's gone all of a sudden. It was everywhere in her body. It was in her blood. It was everywhere. So I took that very hard because obviously, and then we waited a long time to get a new cat. I always said I wasn't ready, but then I was like, yeah, but there's a cat-shaped hole in my heart, and
Hmm.
just getting another one isn't going to replace what we had. It's just another,
Yeah.
it's a new one.
Yeah.
So we got her name was Fiddleleaf, and we had Solstice for about 4 years. We had Fiddleleaf for about 4 years. Again, she was about 6 to 7 when we brought her into the vet for experiencing like she was breathing very heavily and she was all puffed up. She knew there was something wrong, so we brought her in. She had a mass on her chest. We did everything we could. We did everything that we couldn't do with the first cat.
Okay.
We took biopsies. We sent that out to the labs. We did just all sorts of tests. We even did surgery. We did everything to remove the mass. And we were like, every single step of the process looked like the best case scenario. We were trying to see if it's lymphoma or thymoma. That is a whole big thing. If it's lymphoma, there's only treatment and she won't live. If it's thymoma, you can surgically remove the mass. And if they get good margins, she could live forever. She could live a normal life.
We can hope. We could
Um,
wish. That
we,
would be
yeah,
wonderful.
the test showed that it was not lymphoma. We were celebrating that. Um, I said, yes, let's go forward with surgery. They took out the mass. Surgery went well, but she never got off anesthesia. She couldn't breathe on her own for some
Oh,
reason. We kept her on the monitor for a week. It's all we could do until the symptoms of being under prolonged anesthesia started taking hold of her.
yeah.
And we made the decision. But it was like, why again? When
Yeah.
everything started feeling better than the last, we had a chance, and it still didn't work out.
No, I'm so sorry.
No, yeah. And so I struggled with like, what are we doing wrong? And me and my husband both struggled with that. And um, like, I pulled back and started,
So this,
um,
just to clarify, this was
yeah,
the cat that you lost and that during a couple years ago, just a couple years ago.
yeah.
Okay,
So
this was
October
the
of
hard loss.
24.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was our like, this sucks that it's happening again,
Yeah.
cancer again, in a cat that is one, young, but also the same age as the last one who died.
Right. Right.
Um,
Both very sudden,
and then
traumatic events.
yeah, yeah. And so I pulled back. I started escaping into things like reading um and it was it was too hard to be like online anymore. And
I get that.
there were a lot of other factors that came with. I have a lot of social anxiety or social media anxiety when it comes to being exposed and online and stuff. It's hard for me and I struggle with things like commenting or posting at all. But when it came to the just complete breakdown of that emotion that fed into so much more mental health issues that I had that I didn't know I had, um, it just kind of snowballed into a really big thing that made me retreat. And the first thing that goes is creativity and
Absolutely.
drive to there's no passion and love in order
Hmm.
to feed the creativity. So it lasted a lot longer, and I'm honestly still not back to where it was, but it has lasted a lot longer than I ever expected it to, because it shined a light on a lot of things that I struggle with. Um, and I never thought I'd have these issues. I never thought I always thought that that was, someone else's struggle and I was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was part of what the issue was, is just always be like, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine.
You're
And
ignoring it. You're
so,
putting it away. And now you can't.
yeah,
It's there.
I can't, it's like this wall that always held back the emotions cracked, and I can't cover the hole anymore.
But you're not
And so like
supposed to.
everything's spilled out. So you got to tear the wall down and then
Mm-hmm.
heal properly.
Yeah.
So,
And that takes time and
mhm,
energy and work and
mhm,
space. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing about the mental health, is it has no logic. Your anxiety
yeah,
has no logic. You can't say, well, I shouldn't feel that
mhm,
way, so I don't feel that way. It's not how it works. You're going to feel that
yeah,
way whether you agree with it or not. As a
mhm,
person with multiple anxiety disorders, I know when I'm having a panic attack, and I
yes.
know how I have to get out of a panic attack. It doesn't stop the panic
It
attack.
doesn't help at all yeah, like knowing it does not prevent it, or you can take the the steps in order to relieve yourself of that attack, but it
Can't prevent
doesn't
it.
keep it from happening. It doesn't make lessen the impact. And I uncovered a lot about how I deal with guilt. I have a lot of undeserved guilt in my life for reasons I don't even know. Um, but something I always say, something could happen to my neighbor that has absolutely nothing to do with me, and I'll make it my fault somehow. My brain will somehow be like, well, if I didn't do this, that wouldn't have happened to them. Or if I did this, that wouldn't have happened. So like, I don't know why that is that way, but yeah, I'm still in the process of being like, Erica, you need to um, talk to someone,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because the mental health and getting help is definitely a process, and I'm in the process right now of acknowledging that if I find someone to talk to, I'll have to talk. And
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. So like,
Sometimes the hardest part is making the call. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
I have been in this situation multiple times. Personally, not to take it away from you, my personal biggest mental health struggle is making medical appointments, because
Mm,
over time I have had so many doctors dismiss me, not for mental health reasons, for
mhm.
physical reasons. And
Yeah,
going into a doctor's office on base is like, okay, guaranteed to happen
mm,
in some capacity. It's very sterile. It's not whatever. And so it's always been a struggle for me. But I know once I get over that hump, like, it's easier. And that was really hard.
mm,
I remember setting up myself with a therapist on, call. And I remember there was one time where it was a new therapist, and she answered the phone and she had to say hello like 5 times, because her just answering the phone and me making the call, I was breaking down because I was like
mm,
terrified and overwhelmed, and like it was the hardest thing, but I did it. So I was also happy that I did it. I'm doing it. But like
yeah,
also it's so scary facing down
mhm,
that path of like, look at all these things I now have to point out to somebody else, and I have to
mhm,
justify it and explain it and feel bad about it and like cringe about it. But here's the thing, is that like, so I've been in therapy various times, and if this helps you in any capacity, not that you ask for this advice, unsolicited
please
advice.
give it. Please give it.
So my therapist, I just told her this last week, and she's like, I'm going to steal that. And I'm like, please do. So the way I tell my brain about therapy, for me, it's big as mindfulness. It's changing some perspective shifts, right? And it's little self-coaching bits that you get. But for me, if it's 1% change in the way that your brain works, that's tiny today. That's tiny tomorrow. That's tiny for this week. But imagine 1% perspective shift over the course of your life. That
Mm,
1% of thing that you can change from being a negative thing to a positive thing. Just 1%. Is that worth 1 hour a week?
mhm,
And then eventually you start to heal those things, and it becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%. And then eventually you're
mhm,
just like, look, bitch, I need to tell you what happened this week. And she's like, all right, let's
mhm.
hear it. Like, What was your high? What was your low this week? If that's all you got to talk about at therapy, let's get it.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it's so, you have one brain, you know?
Yeah.
And like, we perfect a bag into oblivion. We perfect a bag, and we say perfection with quotes in it, because there's no such thing as a perfect bag. There is no such thing as a perfect brain. It will never be. So, but we can take and whittle away at those 1%, you know, and then eventually it's a huge percentage, and then like, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, it is hard. It's tough. And when you're someone who's a creative and needs creative output, but also isn't feeling creative and is like going through a traumatic time, at the same time you have pressure because it's your business. So you're not performing and you're not creating new products. There are no new dollars for new products from new products coming in. There's only dollars from your old products. That is a limited source of income. So there's so much going on inside, outside of your brain, you know, and I don't know. I'm rambling now, but if you can get there.
No, it's kind of like the 1-inch square in our patterns, where you can measure it and not see a discrepancy, but you multiply that out to a 12-inch piece.
That's exactly it. People measure your squares, first of all. But yes, exactly it. It makes a long-term difference. You cannot see until you get to that point. It's the exact same. It's a great metaphor.
Yeah. I know, because a lot of people I've heard a lot of people are like, I measured the 1-inch square. It's just a little off, so I think it's fine. And I'm like, okay, but the pieces aren't 1 inches.
Right.
1 inch.
Right.
Like, if
They're
that's
10 times
1/32 of an inch, multiply that by 12. So I started doing bigger squares.
I do a 1 and
so
a 2.
you can see the discrepancy.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a 1 inside of a 2, so that they can kind of do both at the same time and see it.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's fair. Love that for us. Well, I hope that you continue your journey. It's okay where you're at, you know, like, it's okay to not be there yet. It's okay that if one day out of nowhere you're like, okay, this is my insurance, and like, this is time to Google who is in my network, and then I will write this name down, look at their profile picture. I hate to judge a book by its cover, but like, that's what I did, and I love my therapist. She's amazing. But figure them out and then go from there, as long as it takes you. It's so funny because my mantra today is so perfect for you. I can't wait. Okay. Well, we should just unless you have anything else to add about your design process or any of that, we can get into the listener questions.
Okay, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So now we're at the final press pass, which is the listener question segment. And so Laurel asks, out of all of her designs, what is her favorite?
Oh, I feel so connected to so many of them, and sometimes in different ways.
So the way that I like to ask is, which one do you like to make the most, and which one do you like to like wear? And then sometimes it's like, which one was just my favorite overall, start to finish. It was a great time. I feel it in the core of me that I love it.
When you're talking about like most accomplished or proudest moment, I would say like Moonwake.
Okay.
When I figured out those straps and I was able to put them onto such a simple exterior, but the complete bag was not just a simple looking bag. It had big impact. And the fact that I was younger, newer in my journey.
It was your breakout role.
Yeah. It was one of the biggest. It was probably, it was definitely the biggest at the time, but still to this day, it's bigger than all the previous ones before it. To wear, I wore, let's see, I am still a slouchy bag girl. But I love to wear Vadin.
Okay.
I think it's a good size, and I think it's very unique looking. I love to wear. I wear Hinterland sometimes. I wear Moonwake sometimes. I wear Samarin sometimes. She's a slouchy
Do you
girl.
change bags often?
Um, yes,
Oh, I am not.
unfortunately.
I've been
Yeah.
wearing the same basic Aries for like this October will be 3 years.
Oh, nice. I have my rotation where like it's the same one. I just switch it over, same ones. But I think the crown jewel for now is Harayeth.
Okay.
The designing of that one was so trying. Um, I tried for so long, and then I was almost to the point where I couldn't get the face out of it. So it had a face for a long time, and my brain will always find the face, and I couldn't not see it. And it looked it looked like a chameleon, to be honest. It looked like a lizard for some reason. I don't know why, but um, it wasn't special until I just kind of broke down, and I was in prayer, and I was trying to just get some creativity, some like injection of something for my soul. And then I just did it. And then it just happened. And I'm like, wait, where did this come from? That V, that the triangle on the side that kind of goes up to meet the V. I'm like, I think I did it without the V first. And since that triangle happened, I'm like, I need to mirror that. So I did the V, and it all came together so well. And that was one kind of one kind of section of my journey where um, I submitted to the process and to the creativity, and I let it drive me for a while. And to this day, I say I didn't design Goliath. It wasn't me. It was the higher power. It was just somebody else took the wheel, and that one just happened. I don't want to discredit the work I put into it, but
Yeah,
um,
but it's special to you in that way.
yeah. And it was hard too because that's the one I used for Bag of the Month Club. And so I had an intense deadline for that
Yeah.
one. It wasn't just me relying on the deadline, and I could not push that back.
For those that don't
So,
know, Bag of the Month Club is a subscription-based service where over the course of 3 months, I think it's 3 or is it 4? I think it's 3.
three.
They will have designers that they agree to release patterns essentially through Bag of the Month Club, and it will be exclusive to them and then for a specific amount of time, and then the designer kind of gets the ability to sell it on their own again at that point. It's great because it gets you. I did have this on the list of questions, but we were running close on time. But it's a really cool opportunity. You get a good amount of exposure. I have to imagine. I would never be a good option for that. I've never been approached, to be fair, but I would never be because I'm like, who the hell knows when or if I'm going to make anything next? I'm too
Yeah.
all over the place, for sure. But that was good. I remember when it was released that you were going to be on it. It's the only time I ever subscribed to Bag of the Month. It released, and I think I made it within the first like 24, 48 hours of it getting sent out. It was really awesome. It's a great bag. Really, really awesome design.
It has stood the test of time. And I will say every single one that I see posted is amazing to me. Like there's not one that I feel like, I don't know, it just seems like it doesn't get modified very often. When it does, they're always really cool. Like I saw somebody recently post one that they made taller, and I thought that was really cool. But I just feel like it brings people so much confidence. I've had a person who was a friend of mine. She was not a sewist at all, not a bag maker at all. She picked it up and made it. It was her first bag ever. And she went slow, and it looked amazing. And I'm like, how is this pattern, like, how does it turn out so well all the time? I don't know. I think it's just infused with something special. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's fair. And sometimes we just have that connection with the things we make, and that's special.
Yeah.
So to add on to that, Amanda asks, what does she consider her most challenging pattern to make?
Appricate.
Okay.
And that one's an easy answer for me. Appricate has a lot of small pieces. There's card slots, but you don't make them in the typical like accordion style way.
Right.
They're each separate pieces that you connect to a strip, and then you connect each of the pieces to a strip and then sew that strip to a bigger strip. And then everything else, most everything else are rectangles, and you have to it's very cool how it goes together in the sense that like you measure an inch, you draw a line, you line something else up to that line, and then you sew it across. And then you put that on top of another layer and you sew that across, and then it goes on another layer. And then so that flap that comes down is card slots plus a couple pockets, but then behind the flap are ID window pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that even I struggle with sometimes, the ID window, because you have to fold over those edges to get them to not be raw anymore and then put that clear vinyl back there. And the way that I did it is just the way that I felt like I could do it, but I'm not convinced it's the way everyone would want to do it.
Yeah.
So I definitely encourage people to figure out your own way. If you want the idea window and you think a different way is better, do it. I would just suggest not to change any like outside dimensions because they all have to go into the bag the way that it was meant to. But free reign, you can do what you need to do, or you can even just take them out. And I put a note in the pattern that you don't have to do the windows at all. You could just make it a solid piece,
Okay.
not with no windows,
like an extra card slot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a popular one, a popular design, but I always end up just being like, I commend you for doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And for those that don't know, it's a smaller crossbody with a front, like the front panel kind of flaps downward, correct? And then within that are the card slots and all the good stuff is in there as well. So just for those that don't know. Yeah. Okay, Amanda, okay, to continue on with like from the pattern selection, Jessica asks, what's the favorite name she gave one of her bags?
Oh, that's a tough one. The first thing that's coming to mind is Solasta because it's a Scottish word.
Okay.
I think for the same reason I love Skye, because that was named after the Isle of Skye, and that's in Scotland, which I had the absolute amazing pleasure of visiting in September.
Okay.
And Skye is known to be, or thought to be, like one of the most magical places in Scotland, one of the most beautiful places in Scotland, which I can definitely say yes, it was. And it was just, my Scottish roots were just really fed by kind of acknowledging those. And I don't know, Skye means a lot just because of it signifies to me a peaceful, beautiful place. Like there's still beauty in the world and peace. And I'm not saying anything about like, you know, the people there or anything like that, although I did meet some and they're great, but just looking out at the sunset and the sunrise over the mountains. And I have amazing shots from the Isle of Skye, and I don't know, it would signify a place where I found peace, I think. So yeah, I think Skye and Solasta both. They're
nice
because of their Scottish heritage. Yes.
That's fair. You are a very sentimental person.
Thank you.
Yes, I am. In every answer, which is totally fine. It's just, it's good. It's good.
It means I cry a lot.
That's okay. We all cry a lot most of the time. I mean, I feel like once you start to hit into your 30s, it's like, okay, waterworks begin. Yeah. Okay. So Amanda asks, I'm curious if she owns an industrial sewing machine or if she sews everything on a domestic as it appears in her videos. Carrie builds onto this question, saying to build onto this question, if she does not have an industrial, why not? Does she just love her domestic, or is it a space thing, or whatever keeps her from moving up to the industrial suite?
Okay, so there's a lot of reasons and a lot of things for me to say here. I used to work on a Juki domestic machine. It was an HD7. No, DX7. Sorry, I
DX7.
knew that's why that didn't sound right. It was a DX7.
HZL-DX7. We both have the same domestic. For those that are
Yeah, that's
watching, it's
right.
that
We
one right there.
connected. Yeah, we connected to that one. We connected to each other because of that. Um, I loved it. It started giving me a little bit of problems. I took it in a couple times. The problems came back. So I made it my backup machine and I got the Brother PQ1500. Um, I wanted something portable. I didn't get an industrial for a long time because I was in an apartment and I was already struggling with the noise and vibrations that I was dealing with, being on the third level. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe when I buy a house, I'll get an industrial. And then I bought my Brother and realized that there's never a need for me to have the industrial. I've definitely sewn on like the Juki 1181s. I believe that's what it is. I don't see a difference in power between that one and my Brother.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. My Brother is a straight stitch. It is not computerized like the DX7. It is no frills. It does what I need, and I can move it around. So I will also never get an industrial. Not because I'm against them. If you have one, that's amazing, and I don't think less of anybody. But I always want to make my bags on domestics to show people you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can see, where do I need to adjust thickness? Where do I need to adjust anything that pertains to what a domestic can do versus an industrial, so that anybody can make my bags. You don't ever need an industrial to make my bags. Um, and I love to pull out the fact that you see me make it, and every promo bag you see I post, all made on domestics. It was written and designed on one, so that you have. And I always preface that with, not all domestics are made the same. There
It's
are some
very
that can
true.
handle more than others,
And
but
material
yeah,
choice matters
it
immensely.
does matter. It matters, and
So,
knowing what your machine can handle matters. So,
exactly. So I would only challenge you to say, you said that all of your bags don't need to be made on an industrial,
mhm,
depending on the materials. Some materials are
exactly. Yes.
very dense, but that comes with the experience and understanding of your machine and its limitations.
Yes.
No, I agree. I mean, once you get used to sewing on an industrial, there's a reason why everyone is like obsessed with their own industrial. It's fantastic. I mean, the walking foot mechanisms, I mean, you just can't beat it with some
Hmm.
levels of bulk and things like that. I use all three of my machines. I have a cylinder arm, a flatbed, and a domestic. I use
Hmm.
all of them for almost every bag because I don't think that every seam is the same. So I don't think that every seam should be sewn, at least when I have heavy duty machines. Um,
Hmm.
but I do sew up one of every design on my. I suffer through my domestic. Um, but I also, like, I put that at the beginning of my pattern. Like I tested on a domestic. I've gotten really big into bulk reduction techniques, and to me, like, it's really important that you implement them, especially for those that are sewing on a domestic.
Hmm.
But it all boils down to materials and machines. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
that you have to know the combinations you're using, or it won't be domestic friendly. It's there are so many there's like a billion different vinyl types out there. You
Hmm.
just you have to know what it is you're sewing. You have to understand those limitations. You have to follow the instructions when it tells you to keep the stabilizer out of the seam allowance and things like that. Like, truly, totally get that. But I also respect that you have committed to the domestic way of life. I have moved
Hmm.
on, and I
Hmm.
will not go back. I don't judge you, and I applaud you for
Yeah.
it, though. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
but it is. I love my babies.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely love when I go to Lauren's and so on the
Hmm.
1181s. Um, I see it. I know it's very smooth, very smooth. And I
It's
have tried
yeah,
her cylinder too.
yeah.
It's
Hmm.
amazing. So
Hmm.
I did a whole vatten on the cylinder when I was teaching vatten, and I was like, I get it. I
Yeah,
know.
I
I
mean,
do.
I like to call it my glorified final top stitch machine because that's I'm way more comfortable sitting at a
Yeah.
flatbed. It's just made for comfort for me versus
Right.
you're with a flatbed, you're kind of guiding it through the needle. You're not really supporting most of what you're sewing. But on a cylinder arm, you're supporting almost everything that you're sewing.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference for me. And I hate the flatbed attachment for the cylinder arm. That has been thrown in the trash. Remember, I choose the path of least resistance for myself.
Yeah, right, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Carrie asks, I don't see many or really any other crafters doing video tutorials on your bags like we see with other pattern makers. I'm assuming by that it's not something you allow. Zero judgment at all, but I'm curious why you don't allow it. I know the answer, but I want you.
The answer is because I add my own videos to the pattern, I don't allow others to do videos for my pattern, or don't permit them, because I like to make sure that when you're purchasing my pattern, the value of everything that's inside the pattern stays with you. So I like to say, you're buying the video, you're buying the instructions, you're buying all the photos, you're buying my resources that I add to the patterns. And I just feel like the value of that stays high when it's exclusive to the person who purchased it. And I don't, I work hard on my techniques, my order of operations, my pattern shapes, my, my little tips and tricks or whatever I am adding to my videos. I don't want that to be shown to the world unless you invest in my pattern. And that way I know that you have the full picture and you have my instruction, as well as just know what it looks like to put it together. I don't want to say anything bad about anybody who allows that. I don't have a problem with anybody who allows it. It's just not for me.
No, that's fair.
So I know that a lot of people do approach me and ask permission, which I 100% appreciate. I love getting asked permission, even though I have to say no. But it's such a special thing that they even considered asking, because, and not just doing it.
Right.
But my reasons have been solid and haven't changed. So as of right now, I'm sticking with that reasoning. But like, maybe I'll feel more free about it later. I don't know. But right now it's like, I just feel like, as a gift to my customers, those who have invested in me and my patterns, I want to keep their investment exclusive to them.
Oh, I think that's fair. With that, though, you do kind of essentially shut off some of your audience from other I don't want to say influencers, but YouTubers who want to do that too. It's a conscious choice that you're making to say no to that. And with that comes exposure, it comes, sales. People that are not in your bubble will see it. People that are not in your group and things like that. And so it's a conscious choice, and I applaud you in that, because that is braver than me. I'm always afraid that like people demand to see the process first and things like that. But only reason why I did my patterns, I didn't plan to do videos for my patterns, but the way that Lynn's kind of explained it once was that she just kept seeing people do videos, and then they would do things. They would say you don't need to do this, or they would do something wrong or whatever. And she wanted to make sure that her process was put out there correctly, or at least as she intended it to be. And to me, that was very much like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And it sucks because I never did a video tutorial before like that. But if somebody just heard my belly rumble, I'm sorry. It's like non-stopping. I'm trying to, I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. Sorry, those who are listening only. Also sorry for those who are watching me in this very awkward moment. We love it. But that's very true, because I have seen video tutorials of some of my bags, and I see people who are like, just skip this step, or like, I see your interfacing recommendations. I'm not doing that. And I'm like, It is tough to watch sometimes because you know that there are people who are only watching that and will not watch yours, and then they
Mhm.
maybe not be happy about their end result too. And so for you, you can really make sure that you're
Yeah.
curating what these
Yeah.
people are seeing and learning about this pattern, and making sure that they're not being led astray, which is
Yeah.
totally fair. Like I respect
Yeah.
that, and you're committing to it too. So good for
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, I knew that word of mouth would spread about the quality of the pattern anyway, and you know, I put in the time that it takes for that to happen, and I do know that yes, like people would see it more often if others did videos, but um the I put that on the scale and I weighed it out and I found myself still wanting to keep it exclusive. So,
No, that's totally
yeah.
fair. Okay, so for the last part of the final press pass is for you to ask a question for me. And
Okay. Yes, I wanted to ask, what is a challenge that you are most proud of overcoming in your business or life?
hmm, let's see, in my business. I think the biggest challenge for me has been in 2023. I had a big boom, and that was my breakout role. The Rosie was for me. Like I thought the Aries was, and then the Rosie did really well for me. And people love the Rosie. And so like I was really proud of making that. But during that year, really with the start of the Aries, which gained some popularity when it released, I had a lot of opportunities through that year. And that was when I expanded my bubble the most. So, listeners on the show know that I had a small bubble and then I expanded it, and I tried to work with a bunch of other companies and like get to know a bunch of these other owners and things like that. And then I was just taken advantage of, and like left and right. Like there were not a lot of girls in my kind of bubble. And I'm not necessarily the biggest girl you're ever going to meet, but I'm never trying to take more than I give to anyone, and that was what was happening with me. And so I think coming out of that and recognizing that like it was healthier for me to shrink my bubble back down, to refocus, to recalibrate myself, and like just to come back from that, because I was so burnt out just from working too damn hard. Like I released 3 patterns in a year, 2 years in a row, and that was too fucking much. And so like recognizing that like it's okay to slow down. It's okay to not expand your bubble. It's okay. Like I'm always been very big on like putting my head down and working, and not looking at what everybody else is doing, but then like being approached and being like, "Oh, shiny lights. Oh, good opportunities. Oh, this, that, and everything else." And then like just kind of getting fed shit sandwiches here and there, and was like, "This is not for me.
Right.
Like I don't deserve this." And like I think just recognizing that, coming from that, and getting to the other side, like I feel like I was so much happier in my business during that year, even though like I was kind of getting things thrown at me because my business was growing, and I didn't think I would ever be doing this. I still don't feel like I'm an expert in anything. I'm just like, okay, this works. I'm gonna try this. I'm having fun, and it worked out. But um like I survived that, and like for me that was big. Like I got through it. I learned who my real friends were. I learned who I'm not going to work with. I learned that like I can work with people that I'm not like maybe thrilled about, but like I don't have to let them in. Like I closed a door that needed closing,
Right.
and I was there, and now I have control. And that
Mhm.
was really really comfortable to kind of overcome and be on this side of. It's kind of
Yeah.
like abstract of an answer that is. It was just kind of surviving 2023 for me was it,
Mhm.
and which bled into most of 2024.
Yeah. It was a real refining moment for you where
Absolutely.
like walking through a fire always burns away the stuff that's not fireproof.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're on the other side, you're iron and steel and
Absolutely.
all the other stuff is gone.
Yeah.
So,
And those that are still with me, now are like, I'm so grateful for them because, they were there for me and they stuck with me, and like,
mm,
it's like the whole thing. You find out who your friends are. I just had to find out who my friends weren't. I hate that
yeah.
like there are mean girls in our community, but there are like, and
Yeah.
it sucks that it happens. But I dealt with it. I'm stronger now. And, hey, that's what therapy's for. So there's that.
You're speaking to me.
Okay. So the final part of the show is the mantra. So my mantra today, very fitting. You're allowed to take your time getting it right. Very fitting for you. You seem to, I've heard you say like, this design didn't work out. I think that didn't work out. You're like, nope, this isn't it. Moving on. And love that you like, you just recognize that, hey, this is not it. I'll come back to it at a later time. Or like with your mental health, you recognized things about that. Like, it's okay to take your time. It's okay to work your process, because at the end of it, you're probably going to be way happier taking your time than rushing through it.
Absolutely. I agree with that because, like, for example, Brontide, not just to jump in or anything, but Brontide last year was my only pattern and it took so long to get out because I wasn't happy with how the connectors sat in the bag. And there were days where I sat and stared at it for my entire work day. And I was stuck in that spot, but that's where I needed to be for some reason. Maybe the reason for that will come to me later, but it took me about 6 months to decide on what to do with the connectors. And I didn't like some options because when you carried the bag, it distorted the bag.
Yeah.
And I wanted the certain curve and the dips and all that to stay the same when it was being carried. And I definitely took my time through, struggling with other things. So it took longer than it should have taken anyway. But yeah, taking that time because it's worth it to be happy and proud of the end result.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. I don't regret trying harder, taking more time and making it right. My husband has this saying, and I couldn't remember if I said this as a mantra for an episode or not, because I don't remember anything. I'm going to have to go through, because spoiler alert for some future episode. You have enough time to do something right, not twice. That's huge for me. Yeah. Take your time, get it done right, and that way you don't have to go back to square one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do that, and that's the choice. But doing it right, not twice, is my goal with I don't always get there, but it's good to plant that seed, take the time. So what's your mantra?
I have 2, if that's okay.
Okay.
Is it okay?
It is okay. It is okay.
Okay. The first one is one that I said to myself a lot when I was first starting out, and it was just simply, why not me?
Okay.
Because I remember dreaming a lot and being like, oh, I want a house. Oh, I want, whatever it was, a husband or business. Or I was in retail for a very long time. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to not have the till 10 p.m. shifts, or work every weekend and holiday. And I'm like, this dream that I have, other people are living that.
Right.
Why not me? Make it happen? And I did. So that one drove me for a few years. But I also really love, and I think this ties into my unexpected, I like to surprise people. I really love sayings that when you take the full saying, it changes the meaning completely.
Okay.
And I know a lot of them, but my favorite one is, good things come to those who wait, but only what's left by those who hustle.
Okay. Yes.
And so a lot of people are like, yes, good things come to those who wait. That's a great, pretty saying. Wait for a good thing to come, but you only get what's left by those who hustled and made it happen. So I lived by that one too. And I'm just like, I let that justify my hustle, even though it was probably to my detriment for a little while of just I never rested. But I know there's time. There's a season for everything. You can hustle for a while. You can rest for a while. But it drove my my drive to make this. If it was going to succeed, it needed all of me for a while. So
yeah, no,
I loved that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it teaches you to have patience while also putting in the effort, it's both sides. And that's what it takes to build a business that's successful. It's what it takes to have a long-term business, both of those things, you have to be willing to invest your time and your effort, and be patient. That's the biggest thing, is be patient. I love those. Thank you. Okay, where
Yeah.
can people find your patterns? Where can they find you? All
Okay.
this stuff is going to be linked in your link tree in the
Yes.
description, but I always like to have it verbalized as well.
Yeah, of course. So you'll find my link tree on my Instagram, which is Erica.lavenderandtwine, and that's all spelled out on Instagram, Erica.lavenderandtwine. And then on Facebook, my business page is at Lavender N, the letter N, Twine. And then, of course, like if you want to join my pattern group, it's Lavender and Twine Pattern Show Off Group. Or I believe that's what it is still. I may have changed.
Don't ask
But it
me.
will be
We already know.
linked.
I don't know.
Yeah. But the best place to go is my link tree because all of that is there. My
Yeah.
YouTube channel is in my link tree.
Yeah. That's what I'll be
And then
linking in
my
the description.
website.
It's so much
Okay.
easier. People get link trees, okay? It's free. It's easy. Please do
I
it.
know. It's
Gosh.
very easy.
It's
But the
easier for me.
biggest one is my website.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And everything is
The
also
website.
linked on your website, like your social medias, or no?
No, I think it is. I don't know what page it's on. I think it's maybe at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes, it's at the very bottom footer of the page.
So
But
it's probably on every
the
page.
website is lavender-and-twine.com.
You're keeping us on our toes. I like it.
Everything's different.
It's okay. It's all right.
I had to pay for my own domain, and it had to be something like that.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I have to pay for mine too, but I just got lucky.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. Well, thank you again for coming on and for being so vulnerable. Can I poke fun at you in a very kind and gentle way?
I hope so, yeah.
I think you're the first person to cry on the show.
Oh. Well, I mean,
I knew I was going to get somebody to do it. I knew I was going to get somebody to do it.
The way that my life is, yeah, that tracks.
Okay. Well, again,
no, I
thank
cry
you.
at everything. It's fine.
That's okay. Hey, so I don't know how I keep it together on the show all the time. Mostly because I'm just saying dumb shit all the time. That's probably what it is. But I thank you so much for coming on. I know that so many people are going to be looking forward to this, and I can't wait for them to hear it. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to take you back until way earlier in the episode where I was talking with Erica and I was getting ready to kind of say something, and I just had to say essentially how I had to find a way to communicate just how kind of intimidated I was having this conversation with her. Not because I find Erica to be intimidating, but because I respect her work, and so many other people respect her work on a level that there's only a few of them out there. And I just find it very admirable that she has really pushed her designing and her makes and her, social media image as a very, I don't want to call it perfectly curated, but she's done a really good job of it. And, I am not consistent in that way, and I am just all over the place a little bit. So I find it like very interesting that, she has this ability and to do that, but then also have these designs that are approachable by all and by all skill levels, and I think that there's just something really awesome about that. And I'm so glad that we got to explore that, while also learning a little bit about how even when somebody projects one image and is very much like kind of trying to be this person in this community, right? Like trying to be, when I say this person, I mean that in quotations, like she's a person who has people who respect her work and not just a little bit, a lot. And so, I don't know, I find that to be, humanizing, that she has her own personal struggles and still overcomes them, still struggles today, struggled yesterday, like that she's one of us, so she kind of demystifies her just a little bit. And I think that was my goal with this episode and having this conversation with Erica, was that I know she has this persona that is very like, she is such a great designer, she's so put together and all this stuff. And I so respect that she's been able to curate and create that image, not because it's not true, but because genuinely that's how she is. but she's also able to keep her struggles very private. I'm incapable of doing that, but I found it very humanizing and very demystifying for her to share her personal struggles, and I hope that you kind of got that same idea too. And with that, it is now time for the Seam Society shoutouts. Before I get into the full list of names, I just wanted to send out a sincere apology to Amanda S. I forgot to add your name yet last week when I was working on sorting my list and doing some things. Your name was missed. I am very sorry, but I am very thankful for your support. Tara V, Jessica A, and Hua V, thank you so much for supporting Splitting Seams. Nicole H, Olivia C, and Stacy K, thank you so much for supporting the show. Jabby S, Greg H, and Laurel Z, thank you so much for supporting Splitting Seams and this show month after month. Nyasha J, Amanda S, and Ash, thank you so much for supporting this little indie podcast of mine. Eileen, Jess P, and Carrie C, thank you so much for your subscription to the Seam Society. Your support helps so much. So I'm interrupting the Seam Society shoutouts because I forgot a name. I finished recording the intro-outro about 30 minutes ago, put my hair up, got changed, got on my walking pad, and was back to editing. And towards that end of that, I found out that I had forgotten another name. And so I could have just recorded a clip and then done all the editing to make the subtitles and done all that. Or I could have done this, and I chose this because ultimately this is actually faster. So you're welcome. Here's me in all my walking pad attire. So thank you so much, Sam W., for supporting the show and tolerating me and all my paleo weirdness. And for the last two, Gina S. and Brianna M., thank you so much for supporting Splitting Seams. And of course, thank you so much to the Loose Threads subscription tier and to all of the listeners and watchers. Your support, your engagement, your reviews, all those things matter so much to me, and I just can't believe that, I'm still doing this thing. I've done the damn thing, I'm almost done the damn thing, and I'm gonna keep doing it until I am. Thank you so much. I will see you again in 2 weeks.